It's often said that comparison can be the thief of joy, and that's often true. Now look, while seeing what others have achieved on social media can be motivating and open our mind to a realm of possibilities, it gets to a certain point where it just bring on more harm than good and more depressive and anxious thoughts than it's worth. And once it gets to this point, it actually impedes our progress towards our goals. So in this video, I want to share some tools for how you can stay motivated while also not falling into the pit of constantly comparing yourself to others to this detrimental point. So the first thing is adopting the mindset that it's you versus you. Ultimately, you want to be better than you were the day before. Now, you always hear people saying this, but how do we actually do this? If your goal is to build a certain physique in the gym, it won't really help you just to stare at all the bodybuilders on social media or the biggest guys in the gym and just look at them and think about, they're so much bigger than I am. Meaning it may motivate you at first to see what is possible, but at the same time, it may just end up causing more harm than good. So how do you practically do that? What would be more effective for your personal self-development is to just keep track of your own progress and see how you can improve day to day rather than just looking at the next Mr. Olympia on social media. The key point in this is that in order to track your goals, you need an accurate picture of where you actually are in relation to achieving your goals. And the best way to know where you are in terms of your progress towards your goals is to keep some sort of record of your progress. So let's go back to the gym example. You're training in the gym, you're trying to get a six-pack, you're trying to build a big chest, whatever you're trying to do, and you want to know what you're actually doing during each workout. Just going to the gym and throwing around weights for an hour may be good, but if you really want to see the progress that you're making, you need to track the progress that you're making. So when you go to the gym, you can use some sort of fitness tracker or a pen and paper and literally write down how many sets and how many reps of each exercise you're doing. Then when you go to the gym the next time, you're going to be able to compare it to what you did the previous time. And as long as you see you're making consistent progress and keep on improving, then you're going to know that you're actually making progress towards your goals. Now, this is one example for the gym. It's just an easy example to explain, but this can be applied to a lot of different things, meaning if you're trying to get better grades in school, looking at the smartest kid in the front of the class isn't necessarily going to help you if you're not there yet, and it just brings on more negative thoughts than good by comparing yourself to others saying, oh, I'm not good enough. So what would be actually more beneficial is knowing where you are now, keeping accurate record of that, and then tracking your progress going forward. So the next thing is, maybe even more basic, is that you need good goals to begin with. My mom always told me, she said, shoot for the moon and maybe you'll land among the stars. Thanks, Mom. And while it's probably a good idea to have extremely large end goals, it's important to remember that just focusing on these enormous end goals may just bring on more anxiety and actually impede your progress towards them. Because you keep focusing on where you want to be rather than where you are and what your next step can be. And you're focusing on what this lofty ideal future is without any practical steps for getting there. And this can be compounded, especially nowadays, with seeing people who have achieved the goals that we want on social media right in front of us 24/7. So the best way to practically do this is to break down your bigger, lofty goals. It's important to have a vision, to have an idea of what your ideal self, ideal future, ideal everything will look like, but you need to break it down into smaller steps in order to actually achieve it. It's not as important to know what the next 10 steps are as much as it is what your next step from where you are now is. If you have the lofty goal of wanting to run a marathon, that's great, but it takes a tremendous amount of work to train up to that and get there. And let's say you're a person where you want to run a marathon, but you don't even really take daily walks or anything. It's just an idea that, oh, one day I want to run a marathon. If you don't even take walks, practically that could be your next step. You could go and say, you know what, I'm going to take a 5-minute walk every day, then I'm going to take a 10-minute walk every day, and then you build up to, I'm going to take a daily jog, and then a longer daily jog, and then you up it to running, and then slowly but surely you need to just know what your next step is, not necessarily what the 7 steps, 10 steps, 20 steps to actually achieving your main goal is. If you have that, that's great, but that also may just take you out of the here and now from actually doing the thing that brings you towards achieving your goal. And the last tip is a done list. And now what a done list is, I heard this from Oliver Berkman. I read his newsletter a little while ago, and I thought it was such an interesting idea in that instead of a to-do list, it's the opposite. It works from the reverse in that it's something you write at the end of your day, and it's just a record you keep throughout the day of all of your accomplishments and everything that you've actually done throughout the day. So the purpose of this is that oftentimes at the end of the day, that's when negative self-talk, that's when anxiety, that's when a lot of these negative thoughts will hit us the most, because we're at the end of the day, it doesn't really matter how productive we've been, especially if we're motivated individuals. A lot of times we feel like, but I always could have done more. So having this done list literally written out in front of you is going to be very beneficial to remind you of what you've actually achieved throughout the day. It also goes back to the first points of you keep a record of what you've actually done. This can also be super beneficial if you want to write it in the middle of the day, if you've had a particularly rough morning and you're already feeling bad, because, a lot of times what happens is we get so demotivated by a bad start to the day that the whole day falls to the wayside. So I'll make a done list with you right now. It's currently late morning, so not so much has happened today, but I got up, I did my morning routine. I finished the script for this video. Now I'm recording this video. I sent out work texts. I sent out work emails, and that's what's going on today so far. So the items on your done list can be however big or however small you currently need them to be. If you're just looking to get into a normal routine and kind of get back on your feet with things, then put things like brushing your teeth or brushing your hair or getting out of bed at a certain time on your done list. If you're already in a more high performing state, then put the bigger achievements throughout the day. Whatever will actually just continue to motivate you and let you sleep easier at night is going to be a more effective done list. If you found this valuable, let me know in the comments, like and subscribe, and please share this with someone who may benefit from it. And remember to hit life on all cylinders.